welcome to another episode of Off the Menu. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with a Slavonic, Charles Coulombe.
Slavonic? Slavonic.
Mm-hmm.
You mean as the peoples of Eastern Europe?
That is exactly what I mean.
You mean like Czechs and Slovaks and Slovenes and Croats and Bulgarians and Poles and Belarusians and Ukrainians and Russians, that kind of Slavic?
Yep.
So I eat borscht?
You're going to be, no?
Well, it's true. I am going to be. I am definitely going to be.
Is borscht good?
Borscht is delicious, although there are many varieties of it, some better than others.
Well, that's true for anything, isn't it?
Well,
other than chow mein sandwiches and some other items.
Cincinnati chili.
Cincinnati chili. Yeah.
And Callahan's delicious horse meat hot dogs.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. But borscht can be, it's usually pink or red because it's made from beets. But it can be served hot or cold. And with some places, it's just, some places it is just, what's the word?
Nasty?
No, not nasty. I mean, all it is beet, basically hot or cold beet juice with sour cream. Other places, they put stuff in it. Vegetables, meat, all kinds of things.
Beet juice with sour cream does not sound appetizing. That sounds terrible.
It sounds terrible, but it's not. It's actually quite good. I like borscht. And that's not all. Borscht gave its name to the Catskills, the Catskill Mountains of New York.
How?
Well, not through any obvious means, but basically, the Catskills, back before there were jets and people could vacation in Florida easily, the Jewish people in New York would flock to the Catskills during the summer. And they had all these hotels, one of which was Grossinger's of immortal memory. And you had comedians who would play these places during the summer. And so the Catskills were called the Borscht Belt. And so many important comedians came out of there. Henny Youngman, Shecky Green, Jack Benny, George Burns. They all did the Borscht Belt.
Wow.
And it was a wonderful place to hone your comedic talent. It was wonderful. It's so hard today for young comedians. But back in the day, you could go up during the summer, you could go up to these hotels, you could work out your routines, you could work out the bugs in them. It was wonderful. It was, and all you could eat. It was great. The American Plan, it was called. I mean, the amount of food you could put away in these joints was amazing. They didn't know what a continental breakfast was because there wasn't any bacon either, or ham. But brisket, let me tell you something. The fabulous barbecued brisket omelet was invented in the Borscht Belt.
I have a random question for you. Who's that guy who was very famous for eating everything? It was like Diamond
Jim Brady.
Diamond Jim Brady. Okay, I was just one of the off the menu characters. Well, not characters.
No, he was definitely on the menu and off the menu.
Yeah,
and around the menu and somebody else's menu. That was a boy knew how to put away in victuals, Yeah, an appetite. I'll tell you what, Diamond Jim Brady. We really are reaching back into the past today, Yeah. Catskill shtick, Diamond Jim Brady. It's what's next? Minstrel shows and kabuki. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, entertainment sometimes has to really scratch the bottom of the barrel to bring you only the best.
So what is going on with you? What's coming up for you, Charles? Give us what's up.
What's coming up for me? Well, it's an open secret, but we will not be able to do the show next weekend.
Why is
You're,
that?
you are going to be free as a bird for once.
Hmm.
It means you'll be able to take in that new show at the Bijou Theater.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but what is going to happen is something very strange and peculiar. As you know, one of my many hats, I write for a magazine called The European Conservative. And a colleague of mine on that magazine from Canada is going to arrive here in Austria on Tuesday, the 31st or the 30th rather of August. And we are going to get on a train. And that train is going to take us through Hungary. And not just to Budapest, though we shall go to Budapest, but through the Carpathians. And by train across the Carpathians to the town of Zahony, and we shall get off there. It is a border town. And then we shall have to take a cab about 17 minutes and cross the border into Ukraine at Chop. There we shall meet our driver slash guide, and the first night the first day that we'll be there will be in the section of Ukraine they call Podkarpatska Rus, which was the area that the Ruthenians came from. And we'll the next day, having seen Uzhgorod, where we're going to overnight the first night, we'll drive through there and Mukachevo, and then drive north to Lviv. There's an interesting site of an apparition called what is the name of that place? Can't think of it right now, but it's on the way to Lviv from Mukachevo. So we shall look at it as sort of the Ukrainian Fatima. And then from there, 2 days in Lviv, we'll scout around, visit the Cathedral of St. George, which is the center of the Ukrainian Catholic Church, and do things of that nature. And then we shall drive toward Kiev. On the way, we'll stop at Pochev, which is a big shrine, miraculous icon of Our Lady and all that. And then in Kiev, in addition to looking around and seeing what damage the war hath wrought, we'll go to the great Cathedral of St. Sophia and the great Monastery of the Caves. And then there are a couple of little towns around to the north that were really damaged during the war. The initial phases of the war, since the war is still going on. We'll look around at those places and then talk to whoever we speak to. And then on the 6th, we shall head south to Chernovitz in Bukovina, which is a southern Ukrainian town. Overnight there, and the next day, cross into Romania. But of course, this is Bukovina. My colleague will continue by train from Suceava to Bucharest, where he shall fly home. But I shall take the train from Suceava to Cluj, in the heart of Transylvania. The train shall take me through the Borgo Pass. And we know what sits in the Borgo Pass, don't we?
Kind of.
Castle Dracula.
Wow.
Okay, so it's not really there so much. What is your problem? And I think this is, as the Halloween stuff is beginning to flourish in the markets of Southern California, I think it's a very appropriate thing to go to Dracula's home country. And then I'll spend a day wandering around Cluj, Klausenburg, Koloshvar, depending on how you want to call it, in which language. And then I shall hop on a plane on the 9th of September and fly back to Vienna.
Okay. So you're gone for
9 days, 8 days, 10 days.
I see. Okay.
It's actually going to be quite a quick trip.
All righty.
You can imagine why.
Why?
Well, the shorter the amount of time I'm there, the less of a risk, right?
Yeah.
Well, see.
Oh, okay.
Now, the unwise person might say, well, then why go at all?
Yeah.
Why not just spend a month there or 3? And my response is, you send the money and I'll do it. But this is as much as I could afford with time and money. And to be honest with you, I'm not just going there for the sake of seeing the war. I've always wanted to see Ukraine. And, this is the first time I've really gotten the opportunity. I wish it were under happier circumstances, obviously. But I'll be able to pray at a lot of shrines and so forth that I've wanted to for a very long time. And I'm obviously not going to come back an expert on Ukraine because, like, as with any other country, it takes a lifetime for that. But I will perhaps have a better feeling for what's going on over there. Although I'm not going to pretend I'll know any better than anyone else the roots of the conflict or who's right or who's wrong. It's a funny thing, but when you're in a war zone, who's right and who's wrong, unless you're seeing atrocities committed, which is a different thing. But if you're just there when someplace is being bombed or shelled, the question of who's right and who's wrong isn't really all that important just at the moment. You're living under a bombing or a shelling. Not that I expect to be anywhere near anything like that.
Okay.
Won't be going east of Kiev, in other words.
East of. Okay. Alrighty. Okay.
Nowhere near the front line.
Yeah, that's good. But
Billy's not going to be a hero.
Got it.
Billy, don't be a hero. Don't play the fool with your life. Billy, don't be a hero.
Who's Billy?
Oh, gosh, what do they teach them? Paper lace. Billy, don't be a hero.
Paper lace?
Paper lace is the people that gave us the night Chicago died.
The night Chicago died? Is that like the day music died?
No, the night Chicago died. Daddy was a cop on the east side of Chicago. Remember?
No. Well, I don't understand.
It's a song in the 70s. We've done this before on the show.
Have we?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm drawing a blank.
And so they also did Billy, Don't Be a Hero. And
is this about the east side of Chicago?
What's that?
Is this about the east side of Chicago? I don't understand.
No. The song The Night Chicago Died takes place in the non-existent east side of Chicago.
Oh.
Billy, Don't Be a Hero is set in our Civil War, even though both of these were written by Englishmen. The first verse is, the marching band came down along Main Street, the soldier blues fell in behind. I looked across, and there I saw Billy waiting to go and join the line. And with her head upon his shoulder, his young and lovely fiancée, from where I stood, I saw she was crying. And through her tears, I heard her say, Billy, don't be a hero. Don't be a fool with your life. Billy, don't be a hero. Come back and make me your wife. Well, it doesn't work out that way.
Wow.
Because Billy becomes a hero.
All right, moving on. We have no yes, really.
Do you want Billy to be a hero or not?
I don't care about Billy. That's
what about his fiancée?
You keep trying to get me interested in fictional people, but it's not working.
No, I'm saying you're discriminating against the fictional.
I'm not discriminating because in order to discriminate, they have to actually be people.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. That's like
All
saying,
right.
oh, you're discriminating against that rock. Well,
Want me to prove you wrong?
actually, a rock is even more entitled to discrimination because that's an actual thing compared to fictional people.
See, I can prove you wrong.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Do you believe in women's rights?
What does that mean?
Rights
You
for
have to,
rights for
in the
women.
words of Father Ripperger, you have to define your terms.
Rights for women.
What does that mean? No, this is a trap. I'm not falling for the trap. That's ridiculous.
You don't
No,
know it's a trap.
it's
It might not
100% a
be.
trap. You're basically getting me to agree to basically anything that you can put under this very amorphous umbrella of women's rights.
Well, I'm going to take it a little further, though.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's pretend that we can agree on what women's rights are.
Okay.
All right. But having no less than 3 nominees for high office under the federal government of these United States testified before the Senate that they were incapable of defining what a woman is. Now, if you say that you believe that women should have some sort of rights, whatever that might be to you, in the face of the fact that our federal government is incapable of defining what a woman is, I hold it's no better or worse than being deeply concerned about Billy and his fiancée. Since women, according to our government, are inherently fictional.
Women are fictional. I feel like you're saying things incorrectly. Women
If you
are
can't,
fictional?
all right, if you can't define something, it has no real existence. I mean, all right, you said the rock is real, right?
Yeah.
But if I show you a daisy, an elephant, and an encyclopedia volume, and say, well, any of these could be rocks as much as that rock, then really rock becomes a meaningless term entirely.
This is too Neoplatonic for me.
What do you mean Neoplatonic? I'm just accepting the reality in which we find ourselves. We are owned and ruled by people. Our masters are incapable of defining what a woman is. Ergo, we have no definition for what a woman is, and therefore there is none. There are none. I'm just going along with my owners.
You can define it. Each person can define it for themselves.
Yes, but if there's no generally accepted definition, then it's meaningless. If what you call a rock is actually a bathroom sponge, and what I call a rock is a Hostess Twinkie, then we may both think we're throwing rocks at each other, but the truth of it is, neither of us are doing anything except being stupid. And so all the while,
I could challenge this. I feel like there is a way. I'm just falling short on this count here, but I feel like I can be more difficult.
You could try, but see, what makes this all the worse is that while you basically are attempting to impose some sort of meaning on womanhood, while you're doing that, poor Billy and his fiancée are languishing due to your neglect. What do you think of them apples?
I don't care about creating suffering for fictional people. All right.
Oh, that is harsh. That is harsh. I never thought I would live to see your great uncle Giovanni's favorite great nephew say something like that. I can hear him in heaven or Atlantic City or wherever he is right now, just shaking his head.
Heaven or Atlantic City, yes.
Well, I mean, whether he's with the angels or just took it on the lamb, nobody's quite sure.
All right. Very good, Charles. So no memes of production this week, but we do have a lightning round submitted to us from Daniel.
Well, we're going to do the state of the lightning round first.
Let's do the lightning round first. Let's keep it fun. It's
Okay.
and then we'll get serious afterwards with the state of the
Uh,
week.
okay. What is the lightning round?
All right, so lightning round is death is not an option.
Oh, not the college game. Is this about dates?
No, it's actually, I mean, it's not about annoying broads. Not really. I don't think I see any in here. Um,
All right.
but so it's a different. It's basically choose your favorite or less hated.
Favorite which? Say again.
Or less hated.
Ah, okay. So this is more general. The way we used to play, just for the sake of our studio audience, the way you used to play Death is Not an Option is that you would be confronted with a series, two series of couples of really annoying broads, and then you had to choose which one you'd go out with in reference to. And of course, death is not an option.
Right.
However much you may beg and scream for it.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah, all set.
All right. G.K. Chesterton or Hilaire Belloc?
Oh, that's well, a Bellic, but I mean that's death. Who would even think of that? I mean, either would be good, but I'd go with
Yeah,
Bellic.
it's different. It's different. Some are good ones. Some are, you know.
I mean, that's not death is not an option. Boredom is not an
So you
option
you
in that
choose
company.
Belloc over Chesterton?
I would.
Why is that?
Uh, he and I have more in common.
Hmm,
Anglo-French.
typical.
We babble at each other in our comprehensible patois.
All right, Napoleon the First or Napoleon the Third?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say Napoleon III, simply because I find him a more sympathetic character.
Scottish Home Rule / Independence or not?
As things stand right now, because of the people behind independence home rule, not.
Robespierre or Justine Trudeau?
Oh, that is a death is not an option.
Oh, that's the first one.
That's the first one. All right, I'll go with Robespierre.
You go. Wow. You choose Robe. Okay. Okay.
Well, I mean, look, to spend an evening with, yeah. I mean, Robespierre, you could talk to. I mean, he had a brain. You know, an evening out chatting with Justine Trudeau, you might as well be out with a Ken doll, and not a very bright Ken doll.
Okay. Skydiving without a parachute or lecturing in France in French.
Well, boy, I mean, death is both options, frankly. But since I have lectured in French in France and lived to tell the tale, I'll go with that. I don't
Okay.
think my skydiving without a parachute would work well.
Gavin Newsom or Henry VIII?
Henry VIII.
Wow.
Same as with the Canadian Cupid doll.
At least they're smart.
Yeah, they've got brains. They can talk to them about stuff. Creatures like Newsom and Justine, they're just, again, it's like a Ken doll. Why would you bother?
Elizabeth Warren or Elizabeth the First?
Elizabeth I. Same.
I wonder if there's a certain sort of like modern figure versus comparable historical
No,
figure
no,
in
no.
which
Even
you would
even
choose the
our
modern.
evil is lackluster and stupid. Modernity is the epitome of blah.
Hmm.
I mean, we managed to be cruel and evil and stupid and dull at the same time, and that's just murder.
Okay. Um, the rosary or the brown scapular? Mm, yeah.
The brown scapular, I guess, but it's a tough one.
This is an easy one for you. St. Thomas Aquinas or St. Bonaventure?
St. Bonaventure.
Iliad or the Odyssey or the Aeneid?
Huh. Yeah, well, that's 3.
I mean, I can understand why he did that.
Fine, Iliad.
Boris Johnson or Bush 43?
Boris Johnson.
You know, I'm going to switch some of these up. I'm going to switch some of these up so they're a little harder. Some of these ones that we did. Okay, Justine Trudeau or Gavin Newsom?
Now, see, that's
You know,
better.
I know. See, this is... I'm
That's
smart.
better.
That's why...
Gavin Newsom.
Really?
Yeah. Justin is such a worthless little pig. I mean...
Oh, that's surprising to me.
Oh, Gavin Newsom is swine, but at least he's not French-Canadian.
Wow.
I mean, well, look, let's put it this way. Who is worse? Sam Knuckles Goncalves from an old mafia family, and he's a criminal, or Simon Worthington III, 5th Baron of Dorset.
Okay,
They're
I
both
get
criminals. Now, which is worse?
it. I got you.
Yeah. Justine, being French Canadian, should be the best. Instead, she's the worst. Newsom is just a poor slug.
Henry VIII or Robespierre?
Henry VIII.
Okay, so Boris Johnson or Bush 43?
Boris Johnson.
This is a tricky one. This could be the hardest one.
All right.
Tyrone or Officer Clancy? You're kind of dead either way, actually.
Well, see,
like,
not only that, I'm
like,
dead whichever way I choose.
Yeah.
You know, because the one is, what that petty got that I ain't got. You want to come explain to me? And the other is, no, what is it then? What is it then? I've known you since you were a boy, but you're chosen himself. You know, it's treason either way.
Exactly.
I'd go with Tyrone.
Oh.
Because I've got to live in the tower, Officer Clancy can't get me in the tower.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. Okay.
I mean, I'm never going to be able to set foot outside the door again. I figure I'm going to go across the street to pick up a paper, right? And, Charles Coulombe, yes. I'm Officer Davis, Arcadia PD. We have a bench warrant for a bench warrant. What do we have? A bench warrant for what? I think the chief will explain it to you back at headquarters. Come along now. Headquarters.
Okay, so here's actually a really tough one. I don't know if you could answer it. I'm gonna leave it. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how you handle this. Vendée Radio or Andrew from New Jersey?
Oh, I'm not doing that.
You're not doing that. Okay, I will leave it that.
If you force me to choose, I would have to say Andrew from New Jersey because his son is my godson.
Okay.
So that makes it easier.
Okay.
Vendée Radio, you want more of an investment out of me? I don't know what to do. Andrew knew. Get yourself cracking. Start producing them chillins.
Wow. All right.
All right. Get married first.
Yeah. There's an order of operations here, Charles.
That's right.
All right.
Billy, don't be a hero.
Thomas Hobbes or John Locke?
John Locke.
Old Testament or New Testament?
New Testament.
Baseball or cricket?
Baseball or which?
Cricket.
Ho, 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 ho. Baseball. They go together in the good old USA. Baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet.
Huey Long and the Deduct Box or the Daily Machine in Chicago?
Huey Long.
The Roosevelts or the Kennedys?
Roosevelt's.
Scotch or bourbon?
Scotch, definitely Scotch.
And the last one, the final one. This is kind of a brutal one. St. Louis gooey butter cake or St. Louis gooey butter cake? that's just, you got us. We're dead.
I'll have a package of ho-hos.
Oh, man. That was a good list.
All right.
All right. So, onward to State
of the Week.
This week's State of the Week is...
Apprehension.
It's a different type of state, but okay. Georgia.
Georgia. Does it Georgia? Just an old sweet song puts Georgia on my mind. Or, as to what I'm hearing outside right now, a rainy night in Georgia. Or, leave it on that midnight train to Georgia.
Or the devil that came down to Georgia?
The devil came down to Georgia. He was looking for a soul to steal. That's right. And Hot and Hannah, the Vamp of Savannah. All right, now that we've got that out of our systems, to begin our exploration of the great state of Georgia, I would suggest we start with my favorite locale in that blessed peach tree of a state. And that is, you guessed it, Savannah. And not just because of Hot and Hannah, who was a vamp there once upon a time. Oh, we forgot, of course, Georgia named her, Georgia claimed her, sweet Georgia Brown. Anyway, yeah, we'd start with Savannah, beautiful colonial town. The pig house, oh gosh, the Catholic Cathedral, St. John the Baptist, I think, or St. John the Evangelist. Christ Church, the old Anglican church. The squares of the city. Oh man, Savannah is really one of my favorite places in the whole country. Unfortunately, like so many places of that sort, you don't want to be there at the summertime. A lot of historic mansions, great hotels, great food. Now, from there, you can go into one of two directions. You can go down the coast, places like Brunswick and St. Simon's Island and all that. Beautiful coast, all the way down to the Florida line, the St. Mary's River. Or you can go north to Augusta, which was the second capital of the state. Like Savannah, colonial to a degree, but not nearly as much as Savannah. Go further inland, well, there's Milledgeville, which was the fourth state capital. Not much there now, except the Georgia Military College, which is another military junior college and high school like my alma mater. Macon, Georgia. And in Macon, I think, there are a couple of Washington, Georgia as well. There are a couple of houses scattered around the state dedicated to dear old Flannery O'Connor. You go to the state capital, Atlanta, a lot to see there. It's got, amongst other things, in Peachtree Court or whatever it's called, it's got a street lamp, which is the only thing left from before the Civil War. Because Savannah, as you know, was destroyed in the Great Siege and the burning of Atlanta, rather, by General Sherman, which was the commencement of his famous March to the Sea. Dahlonega, Georgia has North Georgia Military College, and there are old gold mines around there. And then just sort of at random around the state, Warm Springs has Franklin Roosevelt's little White House where he died. But it's fascinating insight into Roosevelt and his regime. Um, the Oh, and in Atlanta, I forgot to mention Margaret Mitchell of Gone with the Wind fame. Margaret Mitchell and Flannery O'Connor were, I guess, the two greatest authors to come out of Georgia. Um, there's a great monastery in Coleman. No, that's Coleman, Alabama. I'm sorry. In Georgia, I guess Mother Angelica's monastery is in Georgia somewhere. It's also in Alabama. Well, then the two biggest things I can think of as far as the church goes are the cathedrals in Savannah and Atlanta, and the old church in Washington, Georgia, which was originally settled by Catholics from Maryland, a place called Locust Grove. And that is a lot to see in the state of Georgia, and really a fun place if you get the chance to go there.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Okay, we have a bunch of questions from Joshua.
Okay. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, Jericho, Jericho. Joshua fit the battle of Jericho, and the walls come tumbling down.
Yeah, that works for me. So he says from the late 18th century until World War One, Austria did well against minor did well militarily against minor forces, but not major forces. Why is that?
Well, for one thing, the Austrians were not a very aggressive people. The Habsburgs, the old saying, let other countries make war, you, O happy Austria, marry. That was very true. And they always had sort of limited resources, and so they were keen not to employ the army uh, to the best of their ability. I mean, they avoided warfare where they could, and where they couldn't, they did their best to be skillful about it and to get out of it as quickly as possible, because they didn't have a great deal in the way of resources compared to their neighbors. They never did. So as a result, their diplomacy often had to take the place of war. But don't think for 1 minute that meant that the army was not useful or effective. There's a book that came out about 5 or 6 years ago called Forgotten Kaiser, which is the first book, really good history of the Austro-Hungarian army in English, from 1617 to 1918. And it shows pretty convincingly that actually the Austrian army, for what it was and for what it had to work with, was really, really as good as anyone in Europe. And the other thing you got to bear in mind, too, is that the Habsburgs managed to last for 500 years with their odd combination of diplomacy and limited, minimal military output. Think of how much longer this was than any of their rivals.
Yeah.
In fact, it could be argued that the only real reason that they fell in the end was because circumstances, i.e., World War One, put them in a position where they precisely could not do the way they usually did things.
All right. Random question, random tangent. Have you ever played the board game Diplomacy?
Years ago, maybe literally 40 years ago.
It's like a 7-player game, kind of a map of Europe.
Yeah.
It's like Risk without the dice.
Yeah.
I used to play it a lot. It's really, really fun because it's pure diplomacy. It's pure. It's Russia, Turkey, Austria, Germany, Italy, France, in England.
Yeah.
And I just kind of mentioned it because geographically, like Austria geographically is sort of the highest skill cap, if you will. Like if you were the best, you could spread out, you could totally manipulate Russia, Turkey, Italy, Germany. Like you touch the most, but that also you're also touching the most, so somebody could invade you very easily.
That
Um
was the problem they faced.
so
And
yeah.
the issue that Franz Ferdinand saw before the war, he was the leader of the so-called Peace Party, was that by being too closely tied to Germany, they were dooming themselves.
Hmm,
He foresaw a role for Austria allied, believe it or not, to Russia and Great Britain.
interesting. Okay.
And he hoped that those three powers together could keep the Germans and the French quiet.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, I mean that makes sense. Like in the board game that would make sense. I could see that. But what would you do with Italy and Turkey?
Well, Italy and Turkey,
They're not
again,
players. They're not serious.
no, not. I mean, Turkey, Austria was allied to. Italy, Austria was also allied to before World War One, but they switched sides where the Allies promised them loot.
Yeah.
The
Just
Italian entrance into World War One is not a glorious one, I'm sorry to say.
I see. I see your strategy. Just let them fight it out in the seas.
Well, that would have been smart. I mean, if the Italians, see, the funny thing was, they were part of the Triple Alliance before the war, but the alliance only obligated you to join in. Italy was only obligated to join in if Germany or Austria were attacked.
Huh. Yeah.
But the way things worked out, they declared war on Serbia.
I see.
And so as a result, Italy had an escape clause for the contract, so to speak, which they used. And that, to be honest with you, although they weren't happy about it, nobody in Germany or Austria really blamed them. It was only when they then turned around the following year and joined the Allies that they considered that they'd been betrayed.
No. Okay. Mary Queen
Which,
of
by the way,
Oh yeah.
is why the Italian army wore French helmets. I knew you would want to know that.
Yeah, that's important.
The Adrian helmets, the beautiful helmets with the ridge. They wore those until Mussolini came up with a new helmet, but that was what they wore in World War One and in the 20s, and they really looked very, very nice because that was such an attractive helmet. The Italians knew that, which is why they wore it.
Hmm.
Thought I'd point that out. It's called the Adrian helmet if you want to look it up and get pictures.
Thank you, Charles.
Sure, I'm here to help.
All right. Mary Queen of Scots seems to be regarded by many as a saint, but Catherine of Aragon does not seem to have the same adoration. Why is this?
Well, I think because Catherine of Aragon, although there is a push to canonize her, and personally I'm all for it, but she died under house arrest in not unpleasant circumstances. Whereas Mary Queen of Scots was beheaded, martyred basically by her own cousin. I think if Catherine of Aragon had been put to death like Anne Boleyn, we'd remember her a lot more clearly.
Hmm.
But she just sort of fades out. You don't really hear about her.
Yeah.
You know that Henry puts her aside to go after Anne, but he doesn't. Apart from kind of putting her in a sort of comfortable house arrest, he doesn't really do much to her. And she continued to consider herself married to him and wrote him affectionate letters and all that till she died.
All right. What was Mary Queen of Scots accused of in regard to the murder of her husband, Lord Darnley? How did other monarchs, especially the Pope, view these accusations? How did the common folk of Scotland view these accusations?
Well, Lord Darnley basically was blown up in his house. And some people accuse Mary of knowing about it or luring him to it or things like that. But nobody with a brain really put any stock in it. The Pope didn't, and the other European monarchs didn't. You see, Darnley was in some ways a very unpleasant character, and he made a lot of enemies amongst the Scottish nobility. Now, remember, these were people who 10 or 15 years before had taken Cardinal Baton, the co-regent of the realm, and thrown him out of the window of his own castle. So, I mean, these were not very pleasant people.
Right? Can Mr. Coulombe name all of Empress Maria Theresa's children?
No.
How many children did she have?
16.
Can you try to name all of them?
What's that?
Try to name all of them.
I can name 3 of them, and that's it.
Okay. What are the 3?
Joseph, Leopold, and Maria Antonia, who became Marie Antoinette.
Of course. Post World War II, when did Austria cease to be occupied by Allied forces? Why did the Allies choose to cease occupying Austria?
That was in 1955. And as far as the Austrians are concerned, it's because in 1954, a very holy priest whose name escapes me in Vienna began what was called the Rosary Crusade to get the Soviets out. And within a year, the Soviets agreed to sign with the other occupying powers. It was called the Austrian State Treaty. And that not only restored independence to Austria, it required that Austria stay out of NATO, which is why Austria is not in NATO now. It's completely surrounded by NATO countries, but it's not a member of the alliance.
Okay. My grandfather fled Croatia when Tito rose to power. What is Mr. Coulombe's opinion of Tito?
He was a horrible red, of course. He was a filthy commie. He was an equal opportunity bad guy, though, because he abused Serbs, Croats, Slovenes, Macedonians, and Albanians equally. And he was able to sit on them and keep them quiet until he died.
It's funny, I've never heard of the name Tito until someone commented on one of our videos. I had said previously, I was quoting some words of wisdom from Michael Corleone in Godfather 2 when he said, if history has taught us anything, it's that you can kill anybody. I think I was saying that in reference to Stalin or something, like why didn't Stalin get killed or something like that. And one of the persons said, that's not true, Mr. Franchini. Look at Tito. Because apparently Stalin had tried to kill Tito several times. Tito avoided all the times, and Tito's just kind of like frustrated, like, okay, just go ahead and stop. Otherwise, I'm going to kill you.
It's true. Tito was a tough guy, and he took Yugoslavia, although internally it was, it was a communist country. It was not nice, but it was independent from the Soviets.
I see. Okay. All right. So thank you for all those questions, Joshua. We really appreciate it. Really interesting stuff. All right. A question from Daniel, who says, when and why did the ancient Roman practice of adopting an heir, even an adult heir, fall out of use? And are there any modern examples of royals or monarchs adopting children and or heirs? Do you think this practice would have prevented the wars of Austrian or Spanish succession?
That's a tough one. I don't know that it fell out of use completely. And, it's always been a big thing amongst the Japanese nobility, still is. But and there have been some recent cases in the German nobility of of childless members of one noble line adopting a son from another branch of the same family in order that their branch continues. So I mean that it's not unknown. Not to poke a raw nerve, but Friedrich von Anhalt, the husband of Zsa Zsa Gabor, was not really an Anhalt. He was adopted by a Princess von Anhalt, who I think he paid her bills or something. And he started calling himself Friedrich von Anhalt, and then on his own began adopting people at $1 million a pop. So you could become, if you wanted, Vincenzo Prince von Anhalt, if you wanted to give him $1 million. Unfortunately, the actual von Anhalt family here in Europe would not accept you. But you would have the name legally.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be exciting?
No, it wouldn't.
You'd be like Zsa Zsa's son.
Why would I want to be like that?
Wouldn't you want to be the Gabor boy?
Oh, yes. I've always been dreaming of how great it would be to be the Gabor boy.
Yeah. You know, your mommy Zsa Zsa, your aunts Magda and Eva. It would be marvelous, darling.
No.
Wouldn't that be great?
No, it wouldn't be great.
You could have, instead of going to Bishop Amat or someplace like that, you could have gone to Beverly Hills High.
I didn't go to Bishop Amat. I went to Damien High School. Get it right.
Well, whatever.
There's a huge difference. There's light years of difference. Don't ever get that wrong again. All
they're
right.
both Nevishes compared to Beverly Hills High.
Okay, fair enough.
And that's not all.
What?
You might have ridden in the Santa Claus Lane Parade with your dear mother.
Okay, well that's a perk.
And wait, there's more. One of her ex-husbands was Conrad Hilton, who went to the same school I did.
Well, that's cool. I mean, Conrad Hilton, he was a good Catholic too, as I understand it.
Yeah, but we'd have a connection that way.
Yeah.
And so you'd be almost connected to Paris Hilton.
Well, actually, okay, never mind then. Okay.
What?
All right, this is getting too complicated. We're going to close the show with a...
So we're not going to think of you as a Zsa Zsa Gabor son.
No.
That's what you're saying.
No, you're going to think of me as Don Franchini.
All right, so you're turning your back on the Gabor fortune.
I don't need a fortune from the Gabors.
So basically, that whole element of your life, we're just going to X out.
That isn't an element of my life. That's this fictional element, which you...
Once again. Oh, it's not real. Ooh. Yeah, let me ask you a question, pal. Is reality so great, huh? Is being the head of a recently, I don't like the word rehabilitated or legitimized, but let's just say of a commercial family with an interesting history, is that better than being part of one of the leading Hungarian artistic families?
Absolutely it is. Why wouldn't it be?
Well, couldn't you see yourself in Vegas? Vinny Gabor, Zsa Zsa's son. We could have you on stage.
That sounds like hell. Why would I want to do that? A dancing monkey in Vegas?
So, all right, great. So basically you're turning your back on all that.
I'm running away from all that, Charles.
You know, if only Zsa Zsa had known. I guess it's best she died before she found out.
Yeah, I'm running away as fast as I can from my fake past.
Poor Zsa Zsa. You know, the rejection would have killed her. And poor Friedrich von Anhalt, he's still around, and he doesn't have you as a stepson.
Are you done? Are you
done with what?
Done being crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, we're doing fine. We're on pace to have a nice, semi-normal show. I guess you could. Well, I guess that's debatable, but
Yeah, of course it's debatable. And I would add, smart guy, I would add that just because you won't come to the Gabor's aid doesn't mean that if they had known you, they wouldn't have loved you.
well, okay. I mean, that's fine. If they had known me, they would have loved me.
If they had known you.
Yeah.
I mean, if this had been true, I'm sure you guys would have been really tight.
Yeah, real tight.
Yeah, just like that. You would speak better Magyar than I do. And I don't speak it at all. And that tells you something.
Do you eat halushkis over there?
I'm sorry?
Do you eat halushkis over there?
I do, when I can find them.
What? What do you mean you can find them? You can probably find them in restaurants and stuff, right?
Not really. You gotta go a little further east.
No, I mean like in Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe. Yeah, in Hungary.
Yeah.
In Hungary. Okay.
It was Slovakia.
Slovakia. Okay.
All right, fine. We'll just skip the whole Gabor part of your past. We'll just leave it out. We'll exclude it.
All right, that's a relief. Okay.
So
now
basically, it's a segregation thing. You know.
Yes.
Frankini drinking fountains, Gabor drinking fountains.
All right. Final question this episode is
yes.
From Andrew from New Jersey by way of the Bronx, Connecticut, respecter. All right.
Indeed.
And he says, well, if it isn't Vinny Pat Hagen Franchini and Charles the Godfather Coulombe.
Well, now there's a reason for that.
Yeah, you're godfather to one of his kids.
I sure are.
He says, welcome back. We here in the Garden State have missed you both greatly. Now, on to my question. In recent years, I have noticed a surge of interest in the Catholic land movement. It is not uncommon to see people online who have sacrificed a great deal to move out of urban areas, start homesteads, and lead authentically Catholic lives. My question is there any alternative reclaim the cities movement for traditional Catholics? Homesteading and returning to the land is a very noble calling for some, but city life offers its own unique contribution to Catholic culture, which should not be abandoned. In the current year, cities are awful places which are hostile to our faith, but there is so much Catholic treasure to be found with historic parishes which go back centuries and ethnic Catholic enclaves worthy of preserving. A great deal of reform is needed, both in terms of evangelization as well as urban planning. But it would be great if there was a movement with as much enthusiasm as the Catholic land movement, dedicated to this purpose. Remember, our faith was first spread in the cities, and in my view, we should strive to take them back. Charles, are there any groups or individuals out there trying to do this? If yes, who are they? And regardless of the answer, what do Charles and Vinny think of the idea of quote unquote reclaiming the cities as opposed to quote fleeing to the fields? Wow, what a question.
That's a very good question. Well, I would say I don't believe it should be either. It should be one or the other. I believe it should be either or, both. But I don't know of a specifically Catholic movement to do that, although I've often thought of it. You know, when you look at some of these beautiful urban churches, Catholic churches that are going to rack and ruin, you think to yourself, you know, what would it take to get 10 or 15 Catholic families to move to that, especially if they're of that background, to move into that parish and rescue it? I don't know. But certainly, I'm always joking about the old neighborhood and all that. But that joke really encompasses a certain reality. And the reality is that, as Andrew says, those of us with Catholic immigrant ancestors of a certain variety, we came to the cities. We didn't go to the country. I mean, even if our ancestors or ourselves had been peasants wherever we came from in Europe or Quebec or Latin America, we gravitated to the cities, and that's where we found employment, and that's where we found like-minded people. I on the one hand, I agree very much with the Back to the Land movement for the people who are inclined to it. You know, there's no doubt about it that a healthy farming class is essential to a healthy country. But I also believe the same in the city. Now, you will find things like the new urbanism and so forth, where people go in to reclaim elements of the city. Another word for it could be gentrification, but that's usually, dinks, double income, no children, uh, turning a tenement into a condominium. Um, but I don't think that kind of Catholic new urbanist movement would be bad at all. Especially if it was done by people who perhaps had some roots to the area. What happened around the major cities in the East, anyway, is that after World War II, as many of the Catholic ethnics as could fled to the burbs, where they promptly lost their identities. Uh, if you could get enough of them to come back, especially to places like Newark or Italian Harlem, or the Village, Little Italy in New York, where there's still institutional remnants that are kind of just managing or are actually dependent on people from the suburbs keeping them alive. If they could come back and actually inhabit them again, that'd be a grand thing. But I mean, it is a lot to ask of people, and it wouldn't be easy to do as individual families. It really is something that you would need to get a number to do, I think.
Yeah. Oh man, I have a lot to say. I mean, this whole topic, so many things are involved, or kind of like
Do, do
merged
you do you ever miss the old neighborhood?
all the time, Charles. But I mean, there's so many things. Again, as you say, it's one or the other. I don't think everyone is called to do the Catholic land movement thing. I mean, I feel like Tolkien even sort of perhaps implies that with the scourging of the Shire, you can't just like go off and say bye bye to everything. Um, Maybe I'm wrong with that, but that was part of my interpretation. Um, I mean, for me personally, I feel like my calling is in the digital world and in a world in these urban environments, and sort of my skills and my life has sort of revolved around there. And I work in an office where a lot of people, we're all just sitting in front of a computer all day, and I can tell you that we all try to balance out our lives with sort of hands-on, home gardens, a lot, doing roses, having a good backyard, stuff like that. Sort of home improvement stuff, real stuff. You know what I mean? Not digital stuff. And but again, as I say, for a Catholic revitalization, we need so many different things. We can't all just go off and live on farms. We need to have good screenwriters. We need to be producing good stuff on television. I mean, my wife loves watching Hallmark, and so I watch Hallmark. But even the propaganda, the LGBTQ stuff is leaking into that, and it's like, is there no place to turn to? We have to do something. So there again. So, but I can't deny. Superfan Brian posted an awesome thing on Facebook. We're Facebook friends, and he posted this thing. He's big on, he's a big farmer, and he's big on supporting local farms and cutting down the supply chain in a time where the supply chains are all getting fouled up. He's saying cut the supply chain from, farm to transport to distribution store to all these other things, and just go from straight from your garden to your kitchen table, or a local farm to your kitchen table, a local farm to a local market to your kitchen table. That all resounds with me. That's awesome. But I feel like the big thing is just there. You need balance, and I don't feel like you can't say this across the board. Everybody should do this. Everybody should be a hermit. Everybody's called to be a hermit. Everyone's called to be a homesteader. There's a lot of different areas we need to do.
But wouldn't you like to come home back the way we used to do? You come home from your work, you sit on the stoop. All the neighbors are on theirs. The kids used to play in the street. Everybody looked at everybody's kids.
There's a different thing too. I mean, kind of the way I'm built. Everyone's going out of California, going off to greener pastures, Idaho, and such.
Jersey.
And that's good. That works for them. I can totally see that. But for me personally, I have that sort of zeal where it's like I want to reclaim the land of, Junipero Serra. You know what I mean?
What about Jersey?
I'm sure Andrew from New Jersey and the whole gang are going to town and believe the same thing of reclaiming Jersey.
No, but I mean, how do you feel about you reclaiming Jersey?
No. Jersey are not my people. I do not feel.
Au contraire, mon frère.
Look, my
provides a bridge between your New York father and your Pennsylvania mother.
My Italian relatives are all from New York, not Jersey.
I know that. They're from the beautiful Flushing area.
Yeah.
Which is heavily Chinese now, not that I've noticed. Well, it's all right. There's nothing wrong with being heavily Chinese. It's just, it's not the way the old neighborhood used to be. I remember when you were walking down a street in Flushing, it seemed like from every window you'd hear someone singing an Italian aria.
I know.
Or, well, all right, maybe more Dean Martin singing When the Moon Hits Your Eye Like a Big Piece of Pie. But whatever it was, I remember those days. And, life was better back in the old neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, so I don't know. I haven't actually been participating in social media so much, so I don't even know the discussion. Is this a hot button issue?
It is. And the Catholic Land Movement just had a big conference, apparently. A lot of people went to it and had a great time.
That's cool.
And, and I'm all for it. But as I say, I'm in favor of the Catholic Land Movement, but I would be in favor of a Catholic New Urbanism movement if somebody put it together. It would be a grand thing to think about reclaiming some of our cities in a way that wasn't just gentrification. But it would be a little bit tougher because when you go into a city, your city governments are by nature more intrusive.
Yeah.
And more demanding. And of course, the other problem we've got, frankly, are the taxes. It's very expensive to live in New York or Philly or Boston compared to living outside.
So here's a really random, sort of jumbled question, but I'm just trying to parse images that might be in people's minds. Can you be a distributist and in favor of urban, revival, reclaiming the cities, compared to the Catholic Land Movement?
Yeah, I would say so, because don't forget, a large part of what the distributists were about were worker or cooperative-owned factories
Hmm.
and places like that, artisans hawking their own wares, small businesses, and that's all urban. I mean, you can certainly do an urban version of distributism.
Hmm.
The most obvious, one of the reasons why the bat to the land is the most obvious is because, as your friend says, you kind of cut the middleman.
Yeah.
If you make
Yeah.
your own food, then you're, as long as there isn't a famine, you're doing great. But I don't see why the case couldn't be made for urban distributism. It just isn't as obvious. And part of that too is also because you are so dependent on system and structure in the city. And if something goes wrong with that structure or system, bad things happen.
Hmm.
I mean, you'll notice, for instance, the hot summer of burning love did not take place in rural areas.
Right.
So that's another problem we've got, is the question of mere security.
Hmm.
And that's something that is, those in the country are in a better position to take care of themselves than those in the city. Which takes us back to the intrusiveness of city governments, of big city governments.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody has a chief of police like Officer Clancy who understands human nature in a way that a lot of people like that don't really understand.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, he knows, for instance, that the use of the billy club, once it tries in the right direction, can save a world of arrests. I mean, what do you think would be better? All right, a kid breaks a window to steal some jewelry, right?
Right.
And he gets a smack of the billy club on his head and a kick in the rear,
Okay.
as opposed to being arrested, going to trial, and getting a black mark on his life forever.
That would be terrible.
No. Whereas in the first version, he gets a sort of paternal smacking around, and the warning: if I catch you doing this again, boyo, you'll find yourself rotting on Rikers Island. Well, a lot of kids were scared straight that way back in the old neighborhood.
I can see that.
No. You'd be amazed how the nastiest teenage thug becomes much more reasonable after he's been smacked around a bit.
I can see that.
I remember when Officer Clancy was told by one such thug, "You're acting like such a big man because you got that billy club. I'd like to see what would happen if you didn't have it." I said, "I'll tell you what would happen, boyo. I'd shoot you dead."
Wow.
That was the end of the question time.
All right. Well,
You
on
see,
that,
you see
uh,
how much billy clubs are a merciful instrument in the right hands.
wow. I guess so. Yeah, I guess compared to like guns and baseball bats wrapped with barbed wire or something. Yeah.
Yeah, the other stuff in the arsenal. But how much nicer and simpler, you see the cop walking his beat, twirling the billy club, whistling a happy tune, and everyone's smiling to see him because they know what'll happen if they don't. And it's a wonderful thing.
Yes. Well, that's the type of utopia we could all hope for.
That's right, dream of. One more word from you, boyo, and it's the other knuckles as well.
All right, Charles, let's close up the show.
All right, well, we got to close up the show. By the time you see me next, in 2 weeks' time, ladies and gentlemen, we will be pushing halfway through September. We won't be there yet, but we'll be pushing, and autumn will really, really be underway. I love this time of year. I do. I love the escape from the heat of the summer. And I will probably be filled with tales to tell of the eastern edges of the empire,
Mm.
of Galicia and Transylvania, and all those wonderful places. And even who knows? Because I've got to take the train through your former native country, which you've turned your back on. Yeah, what? The Gabors are from Hungary. What do you want me to say? That you've embraced it?
So if I'm not in favor of being the Gabor boy, I have turned my back on the entire country.
Pretty much, yeah.
I don't think that's fair. I don't feel like I should be subjected to such a choice.
Oh, death is not an option. Gabor or non-Hungarian? No, I won't put you through that choice. I met your Hungarian grandfather. I'm not doing that to you,
Okay, thank you.
even though he wasn't a Gabor. Was he related to them at all? Do you know?
No, I don't think he was.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure his name was Bolash.
Well, yeah, but what was his mom's name? Could it have been Gabor?
I don't know. Maybe it could have been Gabor, I guess.
Yeah, great aunt Jasha you turned your back on, not just some random Hungarian chick.
All right, Charles, I have a question for you. What is it if it's Monday?
Hold on, don't help me. I can do this on my own. Hold on. It's off the menu with Diamond Jim Brady.
And what about the soul you save?
It may very well be your own.
Good enough. See you next time, everyone.
God bless you. See you later. Ciao.